This is Natalie Rolls, and you are listening to the Bill Podcast. Presented by Rob Cook. Brought to you in association with GeorgeFairbrother.com, shop.saturdaymorningpress.co.uk, vanguardcomics.co.uk, gibconsultancy.co.uk, mcr-seo.com, and johnspillane.com.
Hello there.
Morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. You've got all your build memorabilia there behind you. That's very impressive.
Got a few more books tucked away on the bookcase as well. So,
Okay. Great stuff.
Collecting them over the years. So all good fun. Thank you for agreeing to chat to me for the podcast. It's
Amazing.
most appreciated. Yeah, we'll start off with the very start of your career, if that's all right. What led you into the world of acting and performing?
Oh gosh, okay. I'd always done theatre. My dad was a very keen amateur actor, and he got me involved as a kid. A group of amateur theatres called the Little League of Theatres. We've got some lovely venues throughout the country. So I did a number of productions as a child. So I was used to doing it. It was always something that I did and was encouraged to do. And then I did stuff at school. And, you know, being big-headed, it was nice. I often got cast in quite nice parts and stuff like that. So it was always very encouraging. Then I went to university in Sheffield. Late 70s, and although there was no drama course there, I did a history degree, but I got involved in doing theatre there. So really, that was what got me interested in wanting to become a professional actor. I graduated, went off and did a sort of fairly normal jobs working in local government actually for a bit, but my heart wasn't in it. I was always wanted to do the theatre stuff, and got back involved again. With people who I'd been contemporary with at university, and some younger people as well, a little bit younger than me, doing stuff. And we took a show to Edinburgh Fringe Festival and helped run a venue up there as part of the university. The show was quite successful. It was based on a book called The Ragged Trousered Philanthropist, a bit of a sort of socialist classic about house painters at the turn of the century. But it was a very successful show, partly because a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily come to theatre knew it. Trade unionists and people like that. So we used to sell out quite a lot. So we said, oh, well, let's form a company, take it on tour for 3 months. And that was it. We set up a theatre company, and we actually toured it for a year. And then we started doing a lot of new writing. So I was involved in that theatre company for about 5 years.
Is that the Metro Theatre Company?
That's it, Metro Theatre Company, that's right. So doing small-scale touring, new plays and stuff like that. So I did that for about 5 years. And in that intervening period, started doing bits and bobs of TV because I was living up in Yorkshire. Got a fair bit. Started getting work over in Manchester with Granada, and did my first TV. I think it was 1990. I did a couple of episodes of Coronation Street, which was great. Loved it. That was a fantastic introduction to the world of TV. This is back in the day when they used to. I think it was only 2 episodes a week, so it was quite slower paced, and they had read-throughs and rehearsal dates and stuff like that. It's not like that now. I've been back a couple of times playing guest parts on it, and inevitably playing a policeman, which has seemed to have been a signature thing in my career. And it's a bit different now, but it's always a good experience. It's a fantastic thing to work on. So I was very fortunate with that, and began to pick up more work like that, and then decided to try and get an agent in London, moved to London. And got a London agent, did quite a lot of fringe, trying to get people to come and see me. This is back in the day when casting directors used to come and watch theatre. It's not so much the case nowadays. Yeah, so I was lucky, fortunate, picked up some quite nice TV work. I was in the first Prime Suspect, which was great to work on. Tom Bell and Alan Mirren, Gary Wheeler and people like that. Of course, Gary, I was looking at the cast list again today just to remind myself a few names. And of course, I remember Gary had been in the bill a bit before my time, but yeah. So, as had many other people, the cast is extraordinary, isn't it?
How was it on that Prime Suspect? Were you obviously it's such a well-known show, but very
Yeah,
pivotal in giving Helen Mirren, but also a leading lady a big role in a cop drama.
yeah.
At the time when you and everyone else was filming it, were you aware how big that was going to be?
In a sense, yeah, kind of, yeah. Because I mean, she was big, a star, and she'd been living in the States and working in Hollywood, so it was quite a big move for her to come back to the UK and do a UK drama series. And at the time, it coincided with when all the TV companies were, for the first time, having to bid for the franchises. So Granada went very big on a lot of different areas of TV, but one of them obviously was drama. And so we were all on film contracts, which is, yes, thank you. This is why you don't see Prime Suspect very much on terrestrial television, because if they do, they have to pay us nice repeats.
Okay, that makes sense now.
But of course, it's all changed now with the way TV works, and I think so. The production values felt quite high, and it was, and with Tom Bell in it as well, because he'd been back because he'd been off TV for a while, because he'd famously been a bit rude to Prince Philip, I think, at an awards event many years ago,
Oh,
and not done much since, and then they're coming back. So he was coming back and picking up more and more work, and he was fantastic to work with, and just to be on the set with people like that. Because at that stage in my TV part of my acting career, I wasn't massively experienced. So it's an extraordinary experience. John Fortune was in it, who I remembered from when I was a kid. And I used to watch Crossroads growing up in the West Midlands. So that was quite entertaining. Yeah, it was fantastic. Zoe Wanamaker, I got to arrest Zoe Wanamaker, chase her on the tube and arrest her, which was a big highlight of my career, vaulting the tube barriers, doing the chase sequence and stuff like that. So all that stuff, it was just great fun. It was really nice. A really nice group of lads who all played the murder investigation team, complete nutters, but great fun to work with.
here's the thing: when you look back and watch it now, it's like a who's who of TV, of picking out
It's,
everyone, in the instant room, and that's them, it's them.
yeah, Ray Fiennes, isn't it? Isn't he? Plays the boyfriend of one of the murder victims, and yeah, you keep spotting. Oh God, look! So yeah, but I think to that extent, it did feel quite special.
Yeah.
And as you say, I think it was the first time something like that with a female protagonist had been, particularly for a cop drama, that been done. And I think Linda LaPlante as well. It was one of the first big, major primetime TV series she did.
Yeah, and she's done so much
Yeah,
since. I was lucky to meet her at a crime writing festival a couple of years ago, and she's very off the wall, should we say? She's very, 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 very entertaining.
yes,
Just amazing what she's been able to write and churn out over the years, both for books and for TV. It's
she's
great,
very.
great career.
I met her very briefly because she in Prime Suspect. There's an episode where there's a boxing match. So we went and they actually filmed it in Bernard Manning's club in wherever that is. I can't remember, is it Burnley or somewhere in Lancashire? And there were hundreds of us, lots of sporting artists, and all the guys who played coppers, all in evening suits, and we sat there we did it for about 2 days. It was gross. And I remember Linda LaPlante, we didn't realise, but they got Linda LaPlante. She wanted to be in it. So they gave her a tiny little cameo where she came in as a waitress, putting drinks down on the table, being a little bit chippy. And it was quite funny because one of the actors, I will name no names, but who is this? What the hell are they doing? And then somebody said to him eventually, that's Linda LaPlante. Oh, it's lovely to meet you. But initially it was, what's going on here? Because she had worked as an actor before she started writing.
Yeah,
She knew her stuff, but she was determined to sort of make her impact.
yeah.
Just about catch her, I think. If you watch it again, you'll just see her briefly.
Like a
It
hand
was
or
very funny. It was very funny. Yeah.
just going back to your touring with Metro, you toured across the country,
Yeah,
different size
yeah.
venues, and how was that being a sort of touring and acting? I'm assuming you were like 2 or 3 days venue and then moved on to another.
Well, actually, a lot of the time we just did one nights. We were doing small scale touring. We did do a few stints where we did 2 or 3 nights in different venues, but a lot of it was one night. So you'd turn up, get in, get the set in, build the set, and we were, I don't know why, but for some reason we were always involved in having much larger sets than we needed to have. And one of them, one of the first new plays we did was called Mr. Fun, and we actually built a C4 Bedford van on stage and put it together because it was set in a sort of fairground. And that used to take hours. I can remember trying to fit the windscreen into the rubber seal so it looked really pucker and everything. It looked great. It looked like somebody had driven a van into the theatre. So get-ins were always quite strenuous. And then you'd have a little bit of time off, get some tea, come back in, warm up, show's on, do the show, have a drink afterwards, one or two. Then the stage manager would come in and start whipping you in, take the set down, pack it back in the van, and then off to wherever you were staying. And early on, a lot of the accommodation was what they call hospitality. It was friends of the theatre and things like that, but we nicknamed it hostility because sometimes you turn up at people's places at 11:30 at night and then have been to see the play, and if they didn't like the play, you could experience a certain sort of coolness in their attitude. It was quite entertaining. Or they'd sit up late telling you what they didn't like about it or how. When I mentioned the League of Little Theatres earlier, we did. We got Arts Council funding. We used to do project funding, and so they would subsidise us to do regional Arts Council areas. So I remember we did the southwest of England, and we played a few of the League of Little Theatre venues. They're really nice venues, a lot of them, proper theatres. And I remember being in one of them and them telling us how successful their production of Jesus Christ Superstar the previous week had been, and how they'd sold more tickets, and how somebody got recognised in the car park, things like that. So that's always quite entertaining. We were very fortunate in the first production that we did. We worked with a director called Stephen Daldry, who's quite well known. He was brilliant. He was just a fantastic director to work with, and really set a very high standard of what we were meant to be doing as actors, and about why we do it and what it's about. So very, very fortunate. To some extent, I think towards the end of 5 years of small scale touring, there's an element of burnout. You start to think, I'd like to get paid a bit more and not have to sort of pack and unpack a van every day. But it's a part of my career and what I did that I really loved. And, there are elements of it that were really not great and didn't work out. I remember we played a venue called the Third Eye Gallery in Glasgow, and the hospitality accommodation for that was a puppet theatre. And we turned up. They said, "This is where you're sleeping," and we were like, "Where? There's no beds. There's no." They said, "Well, they said you had sleeping bags." Yeah, we got sleeping bags, but what? And then one of the I think it was the lighting guy, Tim, went, "What's behind these curtains in this room we were in?" And he pulled a curtain, and there were just row upon row of dolls all staring. And it was like, "We're not staying here." So they moved us. But that was a low point. But
I suppose you were given a puppet to cuddle in bed as well.
It was just too spooky. So there's that element of it. I was glad to start working in TV and also doing more sort of like regional rep theatre work. I worked at Manchester Library and Colchester and Chester and places like that. And it's a bit more cushy. You're doing a show, you do 4 weeks rehearsal, you do a 4-week show, you're in the same venue, and it's a different experience. But I think having had that experience early on was great because that contact with the audience and stuff like that. And I was thinking about the bill. All of us who worked on it, and guests, and because I worked as a guest on it and did a couple of episodes as a guest before I came in as a regular, and I think that's true of quite a few of the regulars actually. We all come from that background. Theatre, one way or another, training or theatre, and bringing that into TV was a really important thing, I think, for the quality of the television and also for the experience of the actors. And in a way, and this is going to sort of sound like a lament, but I think it is worth thinking about it. Those opportunities aren't quite the same anymore. Because not only was that the first, a lot of people, the Bill and things like the Bill, Coronation Street, Enders and things like that were the first TV a lot of people did because, of course, their demand is so great. Because, Bill was 3 episodes a week. At the time I did it, 2 production teams working simultaneously. So they were hoovering up actors, which was great, and it meant a lot. That's how we got a lot of people first TV. people working on the crew, you know, on the technical side, first experience, writers, directors, producers, people like that. And that's not so much the case anymore. And it also set a standard, I think, as well, for what was expected.
And only last week, Doctors finished after 25,
Is it finished now? Yeah, I heard
yeah,
it was finishing.
yeah,
Yeah,
that last aired last Thursday. So I've been on for 24, 25 years. So it's
wow. Yeah,
another big employer there that's
yeah,
sadly now gone.
yes, exactly. And I thought they worked fast on the bill, and I did an episode of Doctors and thought, bloody hell, okay. You know, then you look at the schedule and they go, we're going to do 6 scenes in this location, and then we're going to have lunch, and you're going, you're not going to get through 6 scenes before lunch. Oh, yes, they do. But whereas with the bill, it was, you know, a bit different. I think slightly higher production values, really, I think. And it's interesting looking, and I'm very grateful you sent the links to those episodes because it's a long time since I've had a look at them, and I just had a brief kind of scan through a couple of them to remind myself about what they were about and stuff like that. And you look and you think, yeah, it's good quality TV. You know, this is well made. It's good scripts, I think. You know, variable sometimes, but nice, and you know, it's kind of a soap. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, it's again, it's prime time, getting, 10, 12, 15 million viewers at times. That you look back now at some of the ratings, it was in the top 5 for ITV to consistently churn out high production values for 3 episodes a week is amazing, and again, it's not like where soaps these days are doing 5, 6 episodes a week and it's all on the set, say like it's on
Yeah.
the Corrie set or EastEnders. The bill was going here, there, and everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's quite astounding. It's the different locations that we used. Yeah, yeah. What was passing for the East End of London? You know, was sort of like usually Merch or South Wimbledon or something like that. But yeah, yeah.
I mean, your first bill appearance was in 1992, in an episode called Lost Boy, uh, and and you played a copper called Gordon. You're a surveillance
That's
copper.
right. Yes, yes.
You spent most of the episode behind the camera, sort of
I
like this.
did, I did, I did.
And then very occasionally you'll pop up and go, "Yep, I got him," and
I've
you
got
go,
him, Gov.
"Yeah."
That's it. Yeah, we spent a lot of time in Victoria Station shooting that. Yeah, yeah.
I was going to ask whether that was actually because a lot of the episodes on location,
Yes,
so you were there as
yes.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was all my stuff that I was in was shot on location in Victoria Station, and they had a little room above the concourse that we used.
You shared a lot of scenes with Robert Glenister, who later went on to
Yeah,
be in
that's right.
Hustle. Do you have any memories of working with him on that episode at all? Or
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a massive amount of contact, but yeah, he was very pleasant. All the regulars were actually. We were spending a lot of time in between scenes and takes and stuff like that, hanging out. They had the catering and the little sort of trailer for you to go and sit in. So yeah, just hanging out with people and chatting quite a bit. I mean, I think because he featured more than most of us in it, I didn't spend so much time with him. But yeah, no, very pleasant.
how was it getting that guest part at that point? It's fairly early on in your TV
Yeah.
career. How was the bill on? Was it on your radar? Was it a show you'd
I
watched
knew
at
it.
all?
I knew it. I watched it. I didn't watch it regularly, but I knew it. I knew people who'd been in it and stuff like that. I didn't know any of the regular cast. But yeah, that was a good big sort of like a box ticked for me, because it was about. I mean, that was probably about a year after I'd come to London and got an agent in London. And as I said, I'd done a fair bit of TV work on different things up north in Manchester and in Leeds, and then coming to London, that had not quite been the same. So it's like thinking, oh, am I going to get back in here? Who knows me and stuff like that. So it was nice to get in there and get seen and get a part.
So what was because from a viewing point of view, you see Granada and Carlton, all the other ITV, from an ITV perspective, it's all under the ITV banner. So was it very different, very north-south divide then in terms of the industry at that point in getting work?
In a kind of a way, it's sort of the reverse of what most people's experiences of the late 80s and early 90s was, which is that there was a lot more employment in the south of England than the north. But for actors, because of the way the TV companies operated at the time and their outputs, if you're based up there, Leeds or Manchester or Sheffield or places like that, and you got in and got seen by the right casting directors, the possibility that you would work more to some extent. But obviously, I think in terms of output, more stuff was being produced in the south of England. So yeah, it's an interesting one, that one. I mean, that's the way it felt. It felt like suddenly going from doing going up for stuff, because I used to go over to Manchester a lot from Sheffield for castings at Key Street with the old Granada building, where the old Coronation Street set was, that thing. I used to go over regularly for castings for different things. Families was the thing. There was I did it's very funny. Edward Woodward narrated series about true crime stuff.
In Suspicious Circumstances.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I played the defence Tony Mafia.
That's it. All in
Great
black and
name.
white as well.
Yeah, shot all in black and white, and all sort of Manchester for London locations and things like that. So there was a lot of stuff being made, and I think also, as I say, one of the reasons why I mentioned that thing about the franchises being up for bid was Granada put a lot of money into its output around about the time it was bidding, only later to discover it was the only company that bid for the franchise. I think, damn. But it meant that they actually did do, concentrate quite a lot, particularly on drama, because of course they were, one of the flagship ITV companies for drama, things like Sherlock Holmes and with Jeremy Brett and stuff like that.
I love that show. Yeah.
And I met him when I was doing Crime Suspect, because he was staying in the same hotel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
what was it like to meet?
Oh, it was lovely. He was sat having tea in the Midland Hotel in Manchester where they put us up. And they called me and said, "There's a car for you downstairs, Mark, go downstairs." I came down, and then somebody came in and said, "Actually, sorry, Mark, you're going to have to wait." And Jeremy Brett was sitting having tea, and he said, "Well, you're waiting for a car. Why don't you come and have a cup of tea with me?" So we sat and I had a chat with him and a cup of tea. He was just a real gentleman, just really lovely,
Oh, wow.
So that was nice. So going from that, where you felt a little bit established, moving to London, you suddenly feel like you're a little fish in a bigger pond. So getting in on the bill was like, yeah, great, good. I'm on my way now. I feel like I'm on my way. It was something that I wanted to do as well. So.
And then 2 years later in 94, you've got your second guest appearance as Hugh Parkinson, the area sales manager for Tate Breweries.
That's right, the dodgy brewery sales manager.
Yeah. That one fairly late in 94, that one aired. Was how, again, coming back into it, was it just like slipping on the jacket that he wears in the episode? How was it sort of going back into the show as another guest actor?
Well, that was really nice, actually, because 1994 was an interesting experience. I got cast earlier in the year, right at the beginning of the year. I got cast in a series called Seaforth that Linus Roach did. He gets conscripted into the army. He's a bit of a ne'er-do-well, and he gets put in the army and sent out to France. And I played his sergeant. I was Sergeant Mad McCulloch, and ended up machine gunning him with a Bren gun and things like that. We had this mad battle scene. It was just such fun. And that was all shot up in just outside Leeds on the Hayward estate. I'd done that. So that was like, oh, wow, yeah, this is great. And I'd worked with, I think the director was Peter Jones, who I'd worked with on a thing called Resnick, which I'd done with Tom Wilkinson. So it was great. I thought, this is fantastic. And then the phone stopped ringing, and it went very quiet for the rest of the year. And I was sort of getting through the summer thinking, well, it's the summer, maybe it's a bit quiet. So when it came into the autumn and I got the call, could you come up for this? I was like, oh, good. Oh, I'm really pleased. So I went up and I got the part and I did it. And just at the time I was doing it, they screened Seaforth. I think, it was Mike Chapman, who was the executive producer on it, had seen it. And so just after I'd finished doing that guest appearance, they said, can we see Mark for this part of Chief Inspector Stritch? So I went back in and they said, when I met them, they said, oh, yeah, you've just done an episode, haven't you? Oh, it'll be all right. don't you'll notice. Because I thought, oh, that's going to kibosh it. That's going to put the mockers on it. They're not going to, it's too soon. But they were fine with it. And I think that they liked what they saw on Seaforth. So that's why they got me in. And, it's history, as it were.
It happened a few times, I think, where probably later on where someone would come in as a guest part and then 6 months, a year later, they were then cast as a regular. So it's almost like it was a thing where, we like them. We'll get them back for another one later on.
Exactly. And it's like, how do you function? How good are you at, what's your experience like? How good are you in front of the camera? And the casting directors, they know you, they're familiar with you. So you're safe pair of hands, hopefully. Get in. It's not going to be too disruptive because it's the pace of work on it was fast. Not as fast as Doctors, not to the extent that it was compromising anything that we were doing, but you had to hit the ground running.
So in terms of you've just done the guest spot then. How quickly were you back sort of preparing?
Turned around to come for Stritch. I went to see Mike Chapman and the rest of the people at the Bill in November, sort of in November. And then I got cast. Yeah, shortly after that, I think it was within a day of them seeing me. My agent rang up and said, "You've got the part. They want you to come back. It's going to be this, and all the contractual stuff. And you start in January. You start shooting in January." So that was, I had a very pleasant Christmas. And then went in on January and shot Little Green Apples, which was very funny watching that again.
So it's a very funny episode. It's got lots of lovely little touches that
There's
they
some
give you
lovely
that added.
moments, aren't there? Yeah. Whereas this, and then I was watching. I can't remember which episode it is. It's the bit where June gets beaten up at the beginning.
Oh yes, looking after our own.
That's right. And Conway comes in, and I'm grinding my coffee beans in my and he's like, "What the hell are you doing now?" I love that aspect of it, that contrast between this really down to earth toppers and then this guy who's turned up who's a graduate. And is he going to fit in? But it was nice looking at parade scene again because I thought it's quite ballsy, really, the speech they gave me. And I wanted this job. I'm not a fly by night. I'm here to stay and everything. And I remember shooting that because that was actually the first scene that I shot as Stritch.
Wow.
And they're so naughty. Those the rest of the cast, because those scenes the cast loved those scenes because as often as not, people would get called in for parade scenes, and that would be their only appearance in the episode. Invidious of just to speak of money, you got paid weekly, and then you got an episode fee on top when you appeared in an episode. So if you're only doing,
oh wow, okay,
featured background, you're not having to learn any lines, but just look a bit antsy at this person, then happy days. So there was a very sort of boisterous atmosphere. And going in, having never really met anybody, and have to do this whole speech and this scene in front of everybody was quite intimidating. And they really sort of teased me and took the mickey a bit, and no pressure then, and I think I fluffed a line in one take. They all went, "Oh God, isn't he awful? He doesn't know what he's doing," and stuff like that. And it sounds terrible, but it was funny. It was entertaining, and it was a good way of getting in there and meeting everybody really, and getting that out of the way, and then,
breaking the ice.
Exactly. So, but it was naughty, and of course, being a chief inspector ops. Over the time I was there, I had a number of those scenes, and I'd sort of read the script and go, "Oh bloody hell, a bloody parade scene! I know what this is going to be like." But I got to enjoy them in the end, which was nice.
I mean, in terms of your preparation for playing Stritch, were you a number of the main cast were sent out with real life police? Were you given that opportunity at all?
They didn't do that with me. There was talked about, actually. They said that they were going to arrange something, but I think in terms of turnaround, they didn't get time. So I didn't actually end up doing it, which I sort of regretted at the time. I thought that would have been really interesting. But in a sense, for the character, although he would have had that experience, because nobody starts other than at PC level, it was quite nice for the character in a sense to come in cold off the back of being at Bramton and doing sort of like public order. His speciality was public order and things like that, which is quite theoretical in some ways. And being in a control room, giving instructions to people, and then he was there being a chief inspector ops, which is much more hands-on, proper management of people. So the fact that he hadn't had that I hadn't had that experience particularly, it's quite useful in a way as an actor, because you go, what would this be like? Well, what would be your weak spots, and where would you be trying to kind of make an impact on people and get your point across and stuff like that. So it's quite nice, actually. And I thought some of the scripts were good for that, to build that conflict in.
And you get a lot of scenes with Colin Tarrant, who played Inspector Munro, and Ben Roberts, who played Conway. How was it working with those two guys?
Ben was very funny to work with. It's quite sort of came across quite kind of bloody hell, what's this and stuff like that. But nice. And then again, that sort of was a nice contrast. I thought there was a lot of comic potential. I thought between them, which was sort of explored a bit. And I wish I'd had a chance to do a longer stint and get more into that. He was great actually, and because of his level of experience. And at that time, although I'd been doing TV for about 4 years on and off. I'd never done anything like that, or as much, or been on the screen as much as that. So it was really good to be able to go in with people who got that level of experience and just watch them and pick up techniques and tips of what they're doing and stuff like that. And he was funny, he was a laugh. He was a laugh to work with. As was Colin. Colin was always good fun to work with. I always thought, I'm glad I got scenes with Colin, because we often had our scenes were often sort of us arguing. And it's a funny thing in drama. It's the serious scenes are often the funniest ones to do. When you come to do comedy, that's when everybody gets deadly serious. Got to get this right and stuff like that. But so those were quite entertaining actually. Is response time, I think, is one of the episodes where we had a real hammer and tongs row, and that was great to shoot. Colin, it's really good because we really went for it, and so it's good. No, I love working with both of them. Great, really good professional actors, well experienced, and and wearing it lightly, not taking it too seriously, which is nice.
Yeah, it's great seeing in response time. You've got Stritch determined to investigate Loxton for the potential murder of the suspect, and then you got that lovely scene with you and Colin where sort of Munro's having to tell Stritch, will actually give Loxton a bit of slack here, and look at the wider situation, and that's a great thing I like with the Stritch character. He's got what he wants to do. He wants to, what he's got in his game plan, but he's not. He's open to actually thinking about things differently.
Yeah.
Which he does in response time, which then leads him to thinking about actually that guy that ran through the factory, could he have got from A to B in the time he says? And then yourself and I think it's Andy Paul and Lisa Gagan end up running through the factory timing it. How was that filming that running?
I love that actually, because I'd not done much stuff with Andy or Lisa in any of the other episodes, and I really liked working with them. I really enjoyed it because it was sort of not improvised. It's quite tightly scripted, and you set out this is what the shot's going to be. This is this. So we do it in sections, and we do this bit, then this bit. But that was, we were being followed by a camera, so a handheld camera. So it was quite exciting, really. And you've got a bit of freedom, but not that much. So you've got to be in the right place at the right time and running through this sort of wrecked building, which really was kind of derelict building. Yeah, it was good. It felt really nice. It felt quite freeing actually, and also for the character, because he up to that point he'd not done a lot of really very active or action-packed sequences. A lot of it was very office-based. If your scene opens, you're just shutting a filing cabinet drawer or looking through a blind or something like that.
Or would you like a cup of coffee?
Yes, that's right. Get the old coffee grinder out. Or was it there? I had so he has a print of a Paul Klee painting on his wall, doesn't he, in the first series episode? And Conway goes, "What's that?" So that's Paul Klee.
Is it the right way up?
That's it. Yeah. So I loved working with them, and I thought they were really interesting. And I think they're opportunities within episodes to have points where, because sometimes regular cast, as I say, so you'd be turn up, you go, well, you're in this episode and you're in the parade scene, and that's it. Or there's a bit where you're going to go, yeah, okay, I'll see you later, or and there's not a lot of character-driven stuff. You're not the main protagonist of the episode, but you're still part of the texture of the whole thing. So it's important to get it right. But it's not; those things aren't necessarily as interesting as being given an opportunity to do something a bit different. And that was there where he has to talk them into helping him, then help Loxton to find out whether or not this is. And I thought that was a really nice sort of journey to go on with the characters. So it's nice to do with them.
And then at the end of the episode, you got the lovely pub scene where everyone's having the beer and then
Stritch turns up and destroys the atmosphere.
Yeah, but then because they ask, "Oh, who arranged all this?" Then and Munro sort of nods in your direction, and Loxton's like, "Well, he's not that much of a prat then." And then
that's it. Yeah, that was high praise. They start to sort of go, okay, maybe his. Because it was interesting with that episode, because the whole point was he was pushing all the time. And I think that's where there was an interesting sort of bit of plot line for me as a character. Had this happened because he'd been pressurizing them into improving response time. because the whole thing was based on almost like a military exercise. Right, what we're going to do today is we're going to do this, and I want to see those response times. So he was really cracking the whip. He's seen as being there, and he's in the CAD room and everything going, well, this is next. That's all. Come on, we need to dial this up. And then when what happens, there's an element for him of like, oh, crap. You know,
Yeah.
is that because I've been putting too much pressure on this? Is it my fault? You know, am I to blame in some way? And where does my responsibility lie? And the fact that straight away, you know, Loxton's looking at him thinking, he's going to get me. You know, this is what they do. He does everything by the book, and it's going to be, you know, I've got no chance and stuff like that. So I love that. I think it's a really good bit of storytelling.
I found he's a very fair character as well. I mean, you've got the first Little Green Apples where Nick Slater is sort of he's standing guard at a house, walks off, loses the CD player, and then Stritch is investigating that. And then of course then he sort of lets him off in effect at the end of the episode, and then looking after your own, where Tony Stamp and Dave Quinnen don't attend to the stabbing because they're trying to chase June's attacker.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's a bit at the end where they're both walking towards your office and they're like, "Oh no, what's going to happen?" And Tony Stamp says, "Well, actually, I've been in this position a couple of episodes earlier, and Stritch was actually quite fair if you're honest with him." And I quite like that as well. You were stern and you were by the book, but equally he was a very fair character, unlike Kato who came before.
And it's that contrast, isn't it, between, because you know dramas invariably involve some element of conflict at base, and that was what was always seeming to happen. It was that, you know, is he what he seems to be, or is he something different? Are you seeing something different here? And also because it's an interesting premise that the show has. Certainly when I was working on it, that everything is seen from the perspective of the police, which sometimes when crimes are committed, it's like, oh, hello, that looks a bit suspicious, you know, things like that. But it worked. And to that extent, you're taking the audience on a journey with you. I mean, it sounds a bit cliche to say it, but that is what it is. And so they're seeing it from the perspective of thinking, oh, no, but, oh, he's going to be, oh, no, he's horrible. He's going to be horrible. Oh, no, he's not. Oh, okay. So playing around with that was quite nice and trying to develop that and the kind of scenarios that were developing within it. I think it had a lot of potential. And I did an episode where Jeff Stewart's character was featured.
See No Evil, where you're in the section house.
Yes, that's right. That's the one where and Jeff doesn't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah, there's an assault by another police officer from Stafford Row, I think, and played by Daniel Ryan.
Yes, Danny Ryan. Oh, and he was in Seaforth.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes, loved working with Danny. Really nice guy.
Yeah, so because Stritch is living at the section house, which is a nice little touch. I think there's a line in that where he says he's waiting for his house to complete. So, and that was just a nice touch. Adding, you've got Chief Inspector living with the troops.
Yes, exactly. And then he's not going to turn a blind eye to what's gone on. And I think that's important, you know, in terms of looking at the culture of the police force. That sort of thing does happen, you know, things like that where people have misbehaved. I mean, we know that there's been loads of stuff in the news about this, that, and the other to the police. So I think it's important to reference that kind of thing. But yeah, I remember those scenes with Jeff trying to get him to be more forthcoming, which was quite an interesting experience. And again, it was that contrast between what people think he's going to be like and what he actually ends up being.
Yeah, and of course, eventually Reg does tell all, and
he does the decent thing. That's right.
Yeah.
Reg's dilemma.
Go back to Looking After Your Own. That was your episode where you got top billing on the end credits. How was that for you at the time? Getting, you know, you've only been in the show a few months, and you're already at the top of the cast on the famous end credits. How was that for you?
Yeah, it's nice. It's lovely. You know, you think, oh, good. You know, it's good to get, because, you know, the number of episodes where, you know, I myself was part of the sort of the texture of it, not necessarily featured at all. So it was nice to do episodes where it was more featured, because I felt that was something that needed to happen, you know, not just out of interest out for the drama, but for the character as well. For myself as an actor, is to have more going on, you know, for the character and the storylines developing. So yeah, it was good to get that kind of recognition. And
for a lot of the episodes where you do feature heavily, you are in sort of the top 2 or 3 on the end credits as well, which is great to see.
Billing is always good.
This is Natalie Rolls, and you have been listening to the Bill Podcast. Brought to you in association with GeorgeFairbrother.com, shop.saturdaymorningpress.co.uk, vanguardcomics.co.uk, gibconsultancy.co.uk, mcr-seo.com, and donspillane.com. The Bill Podcast is produced by Oliver Crocker and co-produced by Ben Adams, Glenn Cooney, Bryony Kelly, Maz Mirabilis, Alex Mockler, and Simon Wolfe. Our executive producers are Isabel Allen, Mark Bennett, Christopher Booth, Rob Cook, James Crissell, Rebecca Deeprose, Alana Dewar, Andrew Dyack, Dan Evans, George Fairbrother, Stuart Gibbon, Vicky Greatbanks, Luke Hegarty, Robert Hoger, Edward Kellett, James Ledane, Thomas Johnston, Dave Meakin, Gary Moncur, Danny Morris, Steph Morris, Laura Pinney-Fay, Isaac Powell, Alistair Wrigley, Michael Seeley, Don Spillane, Angel Stannard, Paul Statter, Patrick Stratford, and Sarah Went. Huge thanks to all you lovely producers who make the Bill Podcast possible. For over 200 hours of bonus content, visit patreon.com/The Bill Podcast.